Jim Klauck, aka Checka Pro Joe, here on the Checka Pro radio show. You all know it's very hot here in Texas. Our attics get very hot, and that's why you should have a fan that is pulling the heat out of the attic. Paul Doane is joining me. He is an expert in that area. Paul, how are you?
Doing great, Jim. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming on the show as the expert today. So I understand there are two types of fans primarily. There is an electric one. It's been around for a while, but I guess over the past decade or so, there's been more and more solar attic fans. Which one is better?
Great question. Great question, Jim. And so when I look at the categories or types of attic fans, I actually typically break it down into three categories. There's the traditional electric attic fans, there's the solar attic fans, and then we now have smart control attic fans. And so I'll answer the question with the traditional and the solar, and then maybe touch on the smart control as that's the latest and greatest. So the electric fans and solar fans are great for different applications, and the real answer is which one is right for me. Kind of depends on what you're looking to use it for. And so the solar attic fans are great for areas and applications where you might not have electric, maybe like a shed, or still options where you do have electric, like in the attic above a home, but maybe you like the idea of running on solar power. You have a great sun exposure, you live in a really hot climate, and it feels like it makes a whole lot of sense to just use the free energy of the sun, which it does. However, when you look at the traditional electric fans, they have constant power. They're going to trigger and start cooling the attic continuously until the thermostat is cool. Where the solar fans, you may have some variances when you're getting sun exposure to the panel, so you may not get full power ventilation. However, when you're looking at our quite cool product within the solar fan, does come with an AC/DC inverter that you can use as an optional power cord, so you can avoid that issue that I just described with the solar fan that the traditional does sometimes have a leg up on. So that gets solved. But when it comes down to the airflow of the solar fan versus the electric fan, oftentimes the electric fans are more powerful. And so you could potentially get more power out of an electric fan than you could with a solar fan. And if that's needed, then that may position you to be more favorable there. And so that's kind of the breakdown of the traditional versus the solar. Then it looks into the smart control electrics, which I briefly mentioned. Are you familiar with the smart control technology, Jim?
I've heard something about it, but I know we all want to hear more about it. Tell us.
So that's where the electric fans get really good, is that the motors are multiple speeds and they have a smart control hub on the fan where you can control it from your phone, and you can monitor the attic temperature and you can monitor the attic humidity, both huge benefits within the Texas market. And the smart hub allows you to program the fan to ramp up and down with airflow to proactively cool the attic instead of reactively cool the attic. By proactively cooling, I mean it starts the airflow to ventilate the heat out of the attic at lower temperatures and ramps up in speed as it experiences increased heat. And with that proactive engagement, you can actually keep the attic a lot cooler and avoid those extreme temperatures as opposed to the reactive. And so the solar fans are great. The traditional electric fans are far better than having no attic ventilation at all. But when you look at the smart control technology, and how it has a humidistat and a thermostat, and it can ramp up and down to deliver the most optimal cooling performance available, those look pretty good too. However, there's still some times where the solar fan outshines it. And so I guess the straight answer is, Jim, it depends on how you're wanting to use the fan, but in general, attic ventilation, one way or the other, is a necessity with how hot we get here in Texas.
Yeah, so the smart fan, I mean, that technology is great because having a fan that just goes on and isn't variable, and it doesn't really respond to how warm or cool it is, it's fine, but it's nice when it really is on top of what's happening, right? It's kind of smart. It's like, okay, let's be a little proactive here. Oh boy, it's 3 p.m. It's really hot. So we really need to, maximize ourselves as the fan. And then at 3 in the morning, it gets a break. Kind of nice.
Totally. You're not overusing airflow or overusing energy in the wrong times, and then you're also not underperforming airflow when you need it. And so it's a smart attic fan, right? It delivers the airflow when you need it to get you the best performance. And when they're properly installed and you have a great ventilation setup, you can experience a significantly closer attic temperature to the ambient temperature outside. Oftentimes, an unventilated attic is 20 to 40, if not 50 degrees hotter than the outside ambient temperature. Let's say it's 100 degrees outside. That unvented attic is 120 to 150. And if we get a smart control attic fan, or if we get some really nice solar attic fan setups in there, you can keep that attic, you can cool that attic by up to 20 to 40 degrees. And with the smart control, it manages that whole scenario all on its own, just ramping up and ramping down to give you the best performance. On top of that, for our humidity we deal here with in Texas, it's just so good to be able to deliver airflow to dry things out in addition to removing that heat. Customers say all the time, Paul, I notice a difference with my attic fan. I feel it being cooler inside, and I actually feel reduced humidity inside. I notice my air conditioner cools and then stays off a lot longer, reduced AC cycling on and off. And so that's probably the favorite thing I hear is, Paul, I notice a difference. I feel this. And that's a good thing.
Absolutely. Paul, thank you so much for joining me here on the program and being our expert in the attic today, because here in Texas, it's so hot, especially in the summertime. I appreciate it, buddy. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Jim.